Good morning, Anonymous. It's a pleasure to see you here again. I've come across the full surveillance video of the killing of Irvo Otieno. This is the gentleman who was taken to the medical facility and killed by sheriffs and medical staff. I'm going to share the full video with you all, at least portions of it. If you're a little squeamish, a little sensitive, it's okay. I would advise you to sit this one out.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're back. My name is Peter and this is No Names Media. If you follow this channel and if you saw my previous video about the killing of Irvo Otieno, this is the update that I promised you all that I would follow and keep you all posted on. A few hours ago, the media, the courts released the surveillance footage from inside the hospital where Irvo was transported to. In this video, it shows the moment the staff of the hospital and the sheriff deputies piled on Irvo and suffocated him to death. I haven't saw the entire video myself. As always, I like to share these moments with you all and we analyze them together. And it's over an hour long. We won't be covering that entire hour, but we'll be covering a nice portion of it to where we get a very clear picture on exactly what happened. The video is silent, and so what I thought I would do is, as the video is playing, I'll be watching it with you all, but I'll also be reading the very detailed and in-depth article the New York Times recently did, today they put out, and it discusses the reason he was at the medical facility, the reason he had an interaction with the police, a little about his life, and some other instances Irvo had mental breakdowns in the past and what happened during those circumstances. So thank you so much for being here with me. I won't hold you as longer than what I already have to. Now this video, it doesn't have any audio, so what I decided to do was, while the video plays, I'm going to be watching it. I have a second screen. I'm going to be watching it on my second screen, but at the same time I'm going to be reading an article that the New York Times recently published today. This article is very in-depth, very detailed about Irvo, his mental health history, his upbringing, his family, and other instances where Irvo had a mental health breakdown, and what happened and how those were taken care of in the past. You're also going to shed more light on what you're seeing on screen as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hop right into it. And so remember, this video has no audio, and I'm reading an article from the New York Times in case you didn't hear that or you begin to wonder. Video shows Virginia man's death in custody. Irvo Otieno's death was a devastating ending to a journey that began when his family immigrated from Kenya when he was a young boy, compelled by the American dream. Henrico, Virginia. Surveillance video from the state psychiatric hospital in Virginia shows a group of sheriff's deputies and medical staff members piling on a handcuffed man, Irvo Otieno, and pinning him on the floor for around 11 minutes until his death on March the 6th. The video shows at least 7 deputies from the Henrico County Sheriff's Office entering a room at Central State Hospital in Dinwiddie County and dragging Mr. Otieno as he is in handcuffs and leg shackles. The deputies sit him up against a small seat, and then, when he appears to make a movement, swarm around him and force him to the floor, where they pinned him until his death, the video shows. Dinwiddie County prosecutor Cabell Baskervill has charged 7 sheriff's deputies and 3 employees of the hospital with second-degree murder. On Tuesday afternoon, a grand jury in Dinwiddie County formally indicted the 10, confirming the prosecutor's charges. Mr. Otieno, who struggled with mental health problems and had been taken from his home 3 days earlier, was moved to Central State Hospital by sheriff's deputies from the county jail earlier on March 6. In the video, people who seem to be part of the medical staff are seen walking in and out of the room as the deputies pound on Mr. Otieno, who's 28, pinning his legs and arms and holding his body down with their knees. The video was first obtained by the Washington Post and then by the New York Times. Mr. Otieno'S family said that while he was in jail, he was deprived of medication that he needed for his mental illness. They disputed initial police reports that he was violent at the first hospital where he was taken. All the systems failed my son, his mother, Caroline Uko, said in an interview on Monday, listing the institutions whose job it was to guard his welfare over those 3 days, including the police, the hospitals, and the judiciary system. They set a trap for him, unquote. Well, quote, they set a trap for him, unquote, Caroline Uko said, Otieno'S mother. When the episode started 3 days earlier, Mrs. Uko said Mr. Otieno appeared to be experiencing mental distress. He had walked into a neighbor's lawn and picked up some solar-powered lights laid out on the property. He was banging on his neighbor's front door before his mother retrieved him. A neighbor called the Henrico Police Department to report someone breaking and entering. Officers who responded placed Mr. Otieno under an emergency custody order and took him to the local hospital for further evaluation, the police said in a statement. At the hospital, the police said Mr. Otieno was physically assaultive towards officers who arrested him, took him to the Henrico County Jail, and charged him with 3 counts of assault on a law enforcement officer and 1 count each of disorderly conduct in a hospital and vandalism. Mr. Otieno was kept in the jail over the weekend and then was taken on March 6 to the state hospital. In court last Wednesday, Mrs. Baskervill said that Mr. Otieno had suffocated from the weight of the deputies smothering him at the state hospital, and that he was not agitated or combative. The 7 deputies from the Henrico County Sheriff's Office have been placed on administrative leave. Sheriff Alyssa Gregory said last week that the events of March 6 represent a tragedy because Mr. Otieno'S life was lost. That died as he did 3 days after being taken from his home in an ambulance was almost beyond his mother's comprehension. His death was a devastating ending to a journey that began in 1998 when Mrs. Uko arrived with her children in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia, having left her home in Kenya, compelled by the American dream. Irvo, her younger son, known as Ivor or simply Vo, was 4, barely old enough to remember living anywhere else. When the family was newly settled in the Richmond suburbs, Mr. Otieno and his older brother Leon Oching found a new community at a local YMCA. They became regulars on the basketball court and formed a team with a circle of new friends, some of whom came from similar backgrounds. Now, this gentleman, I don't even know how to begin to pronounce his name, so I'm going to put it on the screen. Who's 29, was born in Ethiopia and came to the United States when he was 5. Said Mr. Otieno was universally liked, as sharp on the court as he was quiet, good-natured off it. Quote, such a genuine, gentle kid, unquote, the gentleman said. Never, quote, never got into a fight, never argued, unquote. Mr. Otieno eventually began playing football as well, doing well enough that he went to play at a college in California, with dreams of one day turning professional. Quote, but unfortunately, unquote, his mother said on Monday, quote, he had the breakdown, unquote. Late one night in November in 2014, according to local press reports, police officers in Merced, California, arrested Mr. Otieno after he had run naked through a shopping mall, knocking items off the shelves. They used a stun gun on him in the parking lot and assumed he was on drugs. But Mrs. Uko said the police soon understood what was really happening and took him to a hospital. Quote, here he was, had a breakdown so far away from home, unquote, Mrs. Uko said in an interview, her voice trembling. Quote, they took good care of him eventually, unquote. His older brother, Mr. Ocheng, flew to California and helped to bring his younger brother home, where Mrs. Uko quickly found him a doctor and got him on medication. She declined in an interview to say what the specific diagnosis was. She said her son did his best to adjust. Several years later, he met Alan Charles Chipman at a small Bible study group comprised mostly of black members of a predominantly white church. They met in private homes to read scripture and talk. Mr. Otieno joined in those conversations. In Mr. Chapman's home studio, Mr. Otieno recorded one of his own tracks, quote, give it time, young Vo. You'll be up and coming, unquote, he raps. Quote, family first, responsibility coming. I ain't running, unquote. He and Mr. Chapman had long discussions about their identities as black men growing up in America. In a photo posted on his Facebook page, Mr. Otieno posed with his fist raised in front of the toppled Jefferson Davis Memorial in Richmond, which had been tagged with a rainbow of protest graffiti during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in 2020. On June 7, 2021, the day after the U.S. Capitol was raided by an angry mob of Trump supporters, Mr. Otieno wrote on Facebook about, quote, 2 justices in America, one for us and one for the white folks, unquote. Mr. Majritab said that, like his own parents, his friend Ivor had gradually come to learn of his new country's entrenched racial injustices. A lesson that was not clear from overseas. Quote, one thing they have realized is like, you won't be trusted. They'll take someone else's word over yours, unquote. Mr. Machutab said, quote, they understand the system itself is sort of against African Americans, unquote. As the years went by, Mr. Otieno and his mother learned to live with his mental illness. There were long stretches of stability, Mrs. Uko said. When he was taking his medication and seeing his doctor. But there were flare-ups too, times when Mrs. Uko would take him to a hospital, and Mr. Otieno would need to be restrained. Quote, he said to me, Mama, why do they have to tie me down to a bed, unquote, she remembered. Sometimes these episodes happened when he was with her at home, in a quiet subdivision of single-family homes outside Richmond. The police will come, along with the medical team, she said. They would take him to a hospital where he would be treated. According to the Henrico County Police, that is more or less what happened on the afternoon of March 2nd, when they responded to a call from a neighbor about a suspicious situation, only to be reassured by Mr. Otieno and his family that it was a mental health problem, not a criminal matter. Mrs. Uko had noticed some changes in her son that week, including that he had been uncharacteristically arranging things in the house. On the morning of March 3rd, she called his doctor to ask that a team be sent to take him to a hospital again. While she was on the phone with the doctor's office, she saw her son walking into the neighbor's yard, pulling up the light fixtures and banging on the door, perhaps mistaking the neighbor's house for his own. Quote, all I say was, son, let's come home, unquote, she recalled. Not long after, she got him home again. A dozen police officers were in their yard responding to a neighbor's report of someone breaking and entering. Some of the officers had drawn their stun guns, Mrs. Uko said. Quote, I blanketed myself on my son and held him as we walked out, unquote. She said, quote, I raised my voice and said, my son is going through mental distress, unquote. The police handcuffed Mr. Otieno and tried to put him in the back of a squad car, Mrs. Uko said, but she insisted that he be taken to a hospital, not the police station. In about 45 minutes, an ambulance came. Mrs. Uko said She spent the next 3 days going to the hospital, the county jail, and a courtroom in an exasperating effort to find out where the authorities were keeping her son and to urge the police, doctors, and a judge to understand his condition and get him his medication. On March 7th, she finally received definitive word on his whereabouts. He had been taken to Central State Hospital in Petersburg, about half an hour drive away the day before, and now he was dead. The family was shown the video last week. It was excruciating for Mrs. Ugo, according to one of her lawyers, Benjamin Crump, who also represented the families of Tyree Nichols and George Floyd. Mr. Crump said there was also video taken inside the jail showing 5 officers approaching Mr. Otieno, who is naked, and throwing him to the ground. After watching the footage of her son's death, Mrs. Ugo spoke briefly to reporters. Quote, "Irvo Otieno is my son," unquote, she said, telling of how she brought him to the United States here as a young child. Quote, "Irvo is as American as apple pie," unquote. And that was the article, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the video. If you don't mind, I would prefer to watch in silence, right along with you. It looks like now they're just now getting the leg restraints off of him. I wonder if he still has handcuffs on. It astonishes me that now all of a sudden all those people care about his life once he's lost it. But not a single individual who's in that room while they were piling on top of him care about his life then. I'm 100% certain that when they were piling on him, they heard him gasping for air. It's highly probable that he even said that he couldn't breathe. I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to pause it and keep it here. I'm going to leave the link to the full video that we just shared in the comments and description. I'm also going to leave a link to the video that I did a few days ago about his case in the corner of this video on screen. But to have all of these people on him, what human being needs this much manpower to hold them down? For what? His hands were chained, his legs were chained. Under no circumstances was this much force necessary. There's not a person in the world, even the strongest, biggest man in the world, would require this much manpower. Now, I'm not talking about people power. This is manpower. From grown ass, big husky men. And to have all that weight focused not on your extremities, not on his arms, not on his legs, just to hold him down, if that's what they were trying to do, but on his fucking neck and chest. I believe most, if not all, of those individuals on him knew that that man was dying. Maybe not the people at his foot, or like those gentlemen standing in the back towards the doorway, but those closer to his abdomen, going up to his neck and head, in that vicinity of his body, should have been able to hear him gasping for breath. It's an unmistakable sound. Hearing someone gasping for life. Once you hear it, you know what it is. You never forget it. Even if it's your first time hearing it, you know that this person is under some serious distress by his breathing, by their breathing. And considering the circumstances this man was in, it would have been pretty apparent as to why he was gasping for life. And then at that point, it should have been apparent to them that we need to get off of his neck and chest. I have no idea what their intentions were. Like I've said over and over and over again in my videos, the police will shoot you and still handcuff you. They'll shoot you 8 times. They'll shoot you dead once. They'll shoot you once, kill you dead, still put you in handcuffs. They'll catch you, put you in handcuffs, and just keep you on the ground for no apparent reason, instead of getting you up, hauling your ass off to jail. They did the same thing I keep saying. Once they had him down, he was technically already restrained by his wrists and ankles. What were you trying to do with him? Why would you need to be on him for 11 minutes? Let's see exactly how long they were on him. Okay, so are we going to count this part? Let's count. I want to see what he was doing before. I want to see again what he was doing before that forced him to lay him down. Let's go back. Okay, so it appears to me he's just sitting there. And why are they holding on him like that still? It doesn't look like he's trying to get up. He's not wiggling or showing any resistance of trying to ease his way from out of their grasp. Why are they holding him like that? I guess maybe they think he'll spontaneously jolt up and try to get up. But I want to see what he did that made them slide him to the floor and jump on him. Because he couldn't have done much. He's already restrained in chains. Look how he got his head. What I think happened, probably, is that he's not trying to. It looked like he collapsed right there. He's not even kicking his feet to show him resisting. You'll definitely be moving your feet around a lot, your legs, if you're resisting, even if you're not using them. There'll definitely be an involuntary motion. And he's not resisting. It looked like he's talking. Now why would they flip him over on his back? What are they doing? Why are they holding his legs? He wasn't even really using them as a weapon or anything. It appears that when he was sitting up and that white officer had his hand all over his fucking face and head, he may have moved his head to try to adjust it, move his goddamn hands off of his fucking head. And the more he moved to get comfortable, the more they saw that as resisting. Like, why are they on this? This man did absolutely nothing to call for this. He's extremely calm. Like, they're even holding his leg. Usually they'll do that to stop you from kicking people. But that entire time he was on that floor, his legs barely moved. So he certainly wasn't trying to get up. What the I'm baffled. Now he's moving, because the more they're on him, the more uncomfortable he is. Look how they're grabbing his head. And he's not fighting to resist them. They're making him extremely uncomfortable. And any movements he's doing to get comfortable, they're seeing that as somehow being aggressive, not taking into account. You have your hands all over another human being, in his face, in his head, on his legs. They're restricting his ability to be comfortable. They're making it impossible for him to want to be comfortable. Now, imagine, you see that bald-headed black guy right there with all the head movement and the black glove? Imagine him on your fucking hip, or your knee with his knees. Your natural reaction is going to be to move your legs from under his knee because of the pain. Or move your hip from under his knee because it hurts. And him, being a moron, would see that somehow as him resisting, instead of a natural human reaction to get comfortable, to remove the pain that he's feeling in one of his extremities. There's no way Mr. Irvo had the strength and ability to escape or resist, considering that he was already chained up. So to have all these people on him for what? Why? Why is this necessary? You see the black guy right here? Look like he's applying full pressure onto Mr. Irvo's upper back or sternum. It's really hard to see if they fully flipped him over on his back or if he's on his stomach. But either way, having pressure on your back or your chest, it restricts your breathing. And he looks like he's applying full pressure on there. He has people holding his head, holding his shoulders, holding his legs, and holding his ankles, as if he's not already chained up. And see, you saw that jolt of movement? That's him trying to relieve the pressure on him, the pain he's feeling with so many fucking elbows and knees on him. That's not him resisting anything. The only thing he's resisting is pain. He's resisting pain that he's feeling, that they're inflicting on him. He's not trying to escape or hurt anybody, but they're not taking that shit into account. Now they move him on his back. In the report, they said the attorney, Benjamin Crump, said he had a knee on his neck like George Floyd. I'm trying to see at what point. I'm almost certain he did. Just until now, when I mentioned it, I wasn't focused on that. So I'll try to focus and see if I see that here. I'm trying to find out where his head is. Is it you see the medical staff worker by his upper part of body in all blue? I think is he the one with his knee in the neck? Like, okay, so at this point you got him still, he's not moving. What's the next plan? What's the next course of action? What are you trying to do with him? Are you trying to sit him in a chair? Are you trying to move him to another room? What's the fucking plan? It seems like their whole entire plan is simply to hold him down for no apparent fucking reason. These people seem to forget, especially the police. They seem to have forgotten that they're not in a prison. You're in a mental facility. That means that some of the actions these people who are admitted in this facility are not done fully aware of what they're doing. Some of these actions are not intentionally malicious. These people may be suffering from schizophrenia, suffering from a whole list of debilitating and psychological, mind-altering mental issues. But for the police, they're looking at this from a perspective of a criminal resisting arrest and not a mental patient suffering a mental issue. How is it? Are they covering his fucking face? Like they're covering his nose and his mouth and nose. Why is it necessary to restrain every single inch of a chained up person's body? You see, he's moving, because remember when I just said, it looked like they have their hands on his face, on his mouth and nose. And so when he tries to move, to adjust that, to move their hands, to find comfort, they see that as some sort of resisting when he's trying not to fucking die. He's trying to avoid the severe pain that he's feeling. He's trying to avoid suffocating. There's the knee. There's the knee. From the... Look how they're holding his fucking head down. Come on. Are you all... These people are absolutely morons. And they all deserve second-degree murder. And I hope they all get it. And they spend at least the next 30 fucking years of their incompetent lives in prison. Because there is no way any logical person who understands the environment of a mental facility, where they're at, will see his actions as anything but someone struggling to relieve themselves of pain, struggling to relieve themselves of discomfort, struggling to find oxygen, struggling to find comfort. During all this situation, all this, what's happening, you cannot tell me that Mr. Irvo did not say, "Get off of me. You're hurting me. I can't breathe. You're hurting me. My legs. Get off my chest. Stop holding my nose. Stop putting your hand over my mouth. Stop pulling my hair." You cannot tell me that this man wasn't yelling that. And all of these people sat around and stood around, heard him yell that out, and not one single individual brought light to this ignorant darkness and said, "Hey guys, relax. Where's the director of the fucking hospital? Where's the head nurse? Where's the head doctor? Where's the fucking manager to say, these are doctors we're talking about here"? Not one single nurse or doctor said, "Hey, what you guys are doing is harmful and dangerous. Some of you need to move. This man says he can't breathe." If anybody who could relate to the phrase, "I can't breathe," should be every single black person in that fucking room. But no one took into account what Irvo was saying. No one took into account all those fucking knees, hands, fists, and elbows on his body and thought to themselves, he may be in fucking pain. This man went there. He sent it. His mother wanted him there. He was sent there all in the hopes of getting simple medication for his mental illness. And instead, he got treated like a fucking animal. He got treated like the Incredible Hulk and murdered by a bunch of savages. That's enough. Like I said, Anonymous, I'm gonna leave the link of the full video in the comment and description. I'm really sorry for anyone who witnessed this and felt any sort of distress. I'm really sorry for Caroline, his mother, and his brother, and his entire family. I'm really sorry that this happened to him. No one deserves this sort of treatment, whether they're suffering from a mental illness or not. We all need to be treated and treat others with dignity and respect and consideration and empathy. We need to be able to relate to one another's struggles and pains. Now, one person in that room was able to relate to Irvo's struggle and pain as they watched pain be inflicted on him. It seems like every single person who came and who stood in that room forgot that they were in a hospital, not a prison. Even in prison, this shouldn't be happening. But especially in a mental hospital. I thank you all for sharing this with me, for joining me. I hope you all find some level of peace in your lives. And I hope that you all take to heart the 3 F's I say almost at the end of every video when you encounter law enforcement. It didn't seem to have helped Irvo, but it still helped to ensure that he will get justice. The 3 F's: don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. It doesn't appear, it appears Irvo, he did all 3 of those things, and they still took his life. They were going to take his life regardless. But by following those 3 principles of don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, it's almost guaranteed that the people responsible for it did not have justification for what they did, and they're going to be severely punished as they should for what they did to him. So still, whether you survive your encounter with law enforcement or you don't, follow the 3 F's, because it'll get you justice while you're alive, or it'll most certainly get you justice if they take your life. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, unless you're in a position to perform maximum compensatory justice. If you're not in a position to do that, if you don't have the necessary equipment, you're outnumbered, or the situation doesn't call for it, just follow the 3 F's. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. Unless you are willing to take the risk, the chance, and the necessary extreme measure of performing and getting maximum compensatory justice. Okay? I love you all out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay woke. See things exactly as they are and not what you wish them to be. Take care.